Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, I'm going to be continuing my Memory Intensify guide, this time looking at the power cards. Now, in the previous video, I focused on memory, the Intensify, and the mentor aspect. For the remaining of this series, I'm going to be focusing just on the Intensify aspect. Now, the Intensify aspect is going to replace Memory's second special rule, and we are going to get a moon and permanent any element, as well as we get this fancy table that we can use and spend markers to upgrade the upgrade miners, power cards, innates, all of that stuff. So that is what the Intensify aspect is giving us. A good example is here we have our Earth innate, which is defend 3. I can spend an Earth marker to increase the defend to defend 5 instead of defend 3, but I can't use markers to hit the threshold. And that is what this aspect is going to do. Now, we're going to talk about cards in this video, starting off with Share Secrets of Survival. It is a 0 energy, fast power, sun, air, earth, sacred site, 1 range. Each time Dahan would be destroyed in target land, destroy 2 or fewer, or I can gather up to 2 Dahan, and then if I have the 3 air, I get to do both. And this is the only unique that memory has that can be amplified by the Intensify, and that is with that water marker. So if I spend a water marker on Share Secrets, that allows me to gather an additional Dahan. And gathering that additional Dahan, it actually matters, because that is going to allow us to kill the town, city, and explorer, because you'll need 3 Dahan to classically kill that. Now, one thing to point out with this card, it is sacred site targeting, and this is the main reason why board selection with Intensify matters. And that is because Intensify, or just memory in general, is going to start in that highest sands or mountain on your board. And if you plan to be playing Shared Secrets early on, you're going to have to establish a closer sacred site in the closer to the coast. So we'll talk more about this in later videos, but boards where you're going to have a more centralized sacred site or one that is closer to the coast are going to be more advantageous, because that allow you to use this card a little bit easier and a little bit more freely. Looking at the next unique, we have Study the Invader's Fear. It is a 0 energy fast, moon, air, animal, 0 range, must target a land with buildings. It gives us some fear, and then it lets us flip the top card of the fear deck. Now, a couple things to point out. One thing that's commonly missed is, remember, you need a building target, a 0 range building target, so that might make placing presence a little awkward. So like, for instance, on board E, I talked about how maybe I want to be using Share Secrets early on. Well, if I want to use Share Secrets here or here, I'll need a sacred site near the coast. But now if I want to be playing Study the Invader's Fear, I'm not starting in that townland or building land, so I'll have to grow here or here in order to be able to use this card. And I actually can't even grow into E2, it only have to be E7. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a dilemma if I want to be playing this card followed by this card. And as you can see, because we are on this board, it's quite awkward. But yes, so Study the Invader's Fear, it's going to give us a little bit of fear, and then gives us that fear deck knowledge. If the fear deck is already, or if that fear card is already flipped up, you don't flip another one in line. And you do gain the fear first, and then the flip card, and then you flip the fear card. So you have to read the card from top to bottom. One thing to point out is this card doesn't have Earth, and you always want to be hitting this defend 3 to 5 innate every turn. So the fact that Study doesn't have Earth means it's, when you play this card, hitting this innate is going to be a little bit more challenging. So we try to play this card usually on turn 1, or try to squeeze it in when we're not trying to hit that defensive innate. The next card is Boon of Ancient Memories. It's a 1 energy slow power, moon, water, earth, plant. Target any spirit. If you target yourself, you gain a minor. If you target another spirit, they may choose to gain any power card, and then if they choose to gain a major, they can pay energy instead of getting a power card. I like the idea of this bottom part here, but 2 energy is just too much, I think. I think if it said 1 energy, you would see this line of text be more relevant. I think if the spirits are in the situation where they can afford to pay 2 energy and not forget a power card, they're likely too far ahead. So I think this line of text just is win more. But yeah, I really wish this was 1 energy. I think you'd see this matter a lot more, or be more impactful. The biggest weakness to this card is it costs that 1 energy. So, and because we're starting with 0 energy and it takes us a while to accumulate energy, when you're playing this card, it's going to be kind of, I mean, it's expensive. It's an expensive card, and ideally we're trying to avoid that. A lot of times this is the card that I play on turn one, and then I tend to not play it the rest of the game, just because I'm trying to play more impactful cards. Um, but I think if you're trying to play more towards a plays based build, you might be able to play this card more often. The fact that you have a power boon in your kit is it's pretty great because now if you're playing with like, well, I don't have the spirits up there, but if you're playing with lightning or any spirit that can really utilize that extra power card gain, this can go a long way. So really like this card. The next card and the last card is Elemental Teachings. It's a 0 energy fast, moon, air, earth. So it is a perfect element card. It's the only card that we have that's perfect element. And it says you get to prepare a marker that goes over here. And then you may discard up to 3 markers. Target spirit gains those elements. So this card is very different than Memory's the normal special rule. The special rule says each element marker you spend gives you 1 of that element for a single action. Elemental Teachings gives you those elements for the entire turn. And this is the card that makes Intensify still, I think, just better than base Memory. It's slightly worse at thresholding majors, but the fact that you have Elemental Teachings, you can just use Teachings, cast it on yourself. You then prepare, well, you prepare 1 marker, but you can spend 3 markers, and then now you gain those elements. So with Teachings plus your any element, that is going to give you 4 elements that you can use to threshold majors when you self-cast this card on yourself. And we're going to talk a lot more about this in depth. And this card alone is why Intensify is able to be positioned high on my tier list. It's pretty busted what this card allows the spirit to do for itself. Now you can also give elements to other spirits, which is just insane. Maybe you need to maybe someone picked up cast down and they're missing a couple elements. Well, you have Elemental Teachings. So this card increases the flexibility of the kit and what you are able to accomplish with the spirit. Now over here I have all of the elements that you have. You have 13 elements, and these are stretched across your cards. You have 3 moon, and that's going to be on study, boon, and teachings. You have your 3 earth. I've already said it's going to be ancient memories, survival, and teachings. It's not on Invader's Fear. You have 3 air. That is going to be on study, secrets, and teachings. And then you have a sun, which will be on secrets, a plant, and water, which will be on ancient memories. And finally, the animal will be on study, the Invader's Fear. You are lacking the fire element across all your cards and on your tracks. And because we are playing Intensify, we get a free any as well as a free boon. Looking over here at some of the events, I have the payment events mainly because what we're able to do is utilize our first special rule where it says when you would forget a power card from your hand, you may instead discard it. That means we're able to pay for events a lot easier. Let's see, we have missionaries. I can choose to forget share secrets, giving me the 4 sun needed to pay for missionaries, and that's using Memory's special rule to help do that. I now have 3 events that we tend to not like to pay for. Sacred sites, we don't have any fire, and we have a lot of sacred sites usually, so this card we can't really pay for unless you draft fire. Remnants, we can easily pay for it, but because we're lacking, or not lacking, because we always have that defend, it means when you pay for it, you're going to lose that defend, which can be kind of painful. And then I have Dahan Trade. I just have this here because of Share Secrets, and I want to highlight that says each time Dahan would be destroyed in target land. So if you're ever destroying Dahan via maybe the invaders are ravaging or events, the Dahan survive. So that is why I have that there. I have both of the Dahan events here, just listed on these 2 events. And I'm just ignore the top part. The whole purpose of this is just to show because you're always having to defend every turn, you want to have Dahan counterattacking in those lands, and you don't want to reclaim loop share secrets. That usually leads to a bad board position. So you're really hoping to have those nice Dahan events that randomly come up such that you can move Dahan and get those favorable counterattacks. Over here, I have another example of when you would forget a power card. You can choose to just discard that power card via your special rule, and then you can just ignore the effects. So pretty cool thing that you can do to dodge this Blighted Island effect. Cultures Mix and Clash, once again, just to show you foreign diseases. It says in the land with the most combined invaders plus Dahan, add a disease and do damage to Dahan. I'm pointing this out because of Share Secrets. This can be used to protect those Dahan, assuming you played it in that land. I also have Ethereal Conjunction and Struggles of Growth. Both of these cards are incredible events for the spirits, and it's great for memory. Ethereal Conjunction allowing you to get a little bit of tempo at the cost of discarding your hand. Discarding your hand doesn't matter as much because you can just reclaim and get them all back, as well as placing presents. I have Struggles of Growth because you can choose to forget a power card, once again, discarding it to gain energy and also rearrange your presence. So both of these are great events. Okay, so before I dive in deeper into the majors, I want to talk a little bit about openings in this video. And I know I'm going to dive way deeper next video about openings, but I need to talk briefly about it because it's important to understanding the major power build of memory, specifically for the Intensify aspect. Now, we're going to be using teachings a lot of times to be giving us 3 elements plus or any that we have 4 elements from teachings. And a lot of times we're going to be on 2 card plays. And that is because in order to reach 3 card plays, or in quotes 3 card plays, it's going to take several turns, right? You want to get energy, then you're probably going to want to get at least 2 to actually 4 cards. And that will be turn 5 or turn 6. As a result, most of your game, you're going to be stuck at 2 card plays. So thresholding majors, you're going to be limited when you're thresholding majors. You're basically limited to these elements plus your major card if you're trying to hit it or threshold it. So when you're doing major power builds, you're going to want to go to 2 plays as well as the 3 energy or the 4 energy, depending on what cost of major you end up picking up. Now, because memory is a 1/1/1 spirit, it's always placing presence, which means when you get a 3-cost major and you're at 3 energy, you can reclaim loop that major with teachings and threshold it every turn for the rest of the game. So a lot of times you're going to be going towards the 3 or 4 energy, and I'm going to be playing teachings plus that major and thresholding that major every turn, and you're going to try to get ahead that way. Now, you're not always going to want to do this, but this is just specifically for the next part of the video that I'm going to talk about right now. Let's get to that. Okay, so as you guys can see, I put a lot of work into this, so hopefully this video is enjoyable for you guys. So over here, I have all of the majors in the game, and I've tiered it. The classic S, A, B, C, D, F. This isn't the Bible, guys. I put a lot of time into it, but like you might see something that's maybe it's an A tier, but really you think it's S tier. Don't get too caught up in the actual rankings. Just get caught up in the general principle of where the cards are. These are the better cards. These are the worst cards. I've already talked about teachings, so we're going to start going through S tier, and hopefully this is not too long because I'm going to be going through quite a lot. So, Vigor of the Breaking Dawn. It's going to cost us, in order to threshold this card, it is 3 sun and 2 animal. And this is going to give us 1 sun, 1 animal, which means we need 2 sun and 1 animal. And as you guys heard earlier, teachings will give us the 3 elements we need. Well, teachings plus our any gives us the 3 elements we need to threshold this on 2 plays. So we can threshold it on 2 plays. And I just talked about how we can get to 3 energy here. Now we can reclaim loop it. So this is where that power comes from. Now, one of the big weaknesses to playing Vigor, and I might have pointed this out in a previous video, I can't remember, but when you're playing a card that doesn't have the Earth, it means you're going to be sacrificing this Earth innate unless you're spending one of the markers with teachings to get that Earth innate. And that's because if you're playing Vigor, which I should probably show it here, bring it down here. If I'm playing Vigor plus my teachings, as you guys can see, let's say I use my teachings, I'm going to discard some elements. Those are my 3 elements. So as you can see, I've discarded 3 markers, and then I can choose my any to get the Earth. But I've basically discarded an extra marker in order to threshold Vigor and my left innate. And hopefully that made sense. Specifically with this version, because I'm only 3 elements short, it costs me an extra marker. Because, for instance, if I just discarded 2 markers, I could discard 2 markers with teachings, 2 sun, and then I can use my any for the animal. Well, I've only lost 2 markers, and if I want to get that earth defense, I'll have to pay another marker for it. And there'll be some examples where you'll actually need to pay 3 elements with teachings in order to get vigor, and it can make it kind of awkward when thresholding the left innate. And hopefully I did a good job explaining that in the videos. Later, you'll be able to see better examples of that, or actually when I get to some of these other majors. Now, one of the things that Vigor lets us do is, because we are playing Intensify, it says at the bottom we're doing damage per Dahan, and we have fire, so we can spend a fire marker to increase the damage on this card. But now the bottom says you may push up to 2 Dahan, and lands you push to 2 damage per Dahan. I'm moving pieces, which means I can spend a water marker to increase this to push up to 3 Dahan. So now Vigor just got better because it can hit 3 different lands. So yeah, Vigor on Intensify is pretty silly. Okay, Indomitable Claim, a very classic card with memory. Once again, you can just reclaim loop it, add 4 energy, constantly proliferating yourself. It's a very easy card to threshold because we can play Indomitable Claim plus our Share Secrets. That's our Sun Earth, and then we can choose our any as an Earth. So now we've thresholded it if you wanted to. So really cool thing there. Unleash a Torrent. So it is a Sun Fire, which means we're going to need a total of 1 Sun and 2 Fire in order to pay for it. As I mentioned, teachings, we can get all the elements that way. I have this card here because it says you may forget a power card to gain 4 more energy. Oh wait, our special rule. So with this card, we just discard the card to gain the extra 4 energy. So this is one of the most powerful cards on memory. The biggest weakness to it is its damage at 0 range, and because we're in a reclaim loop, we're only placing presence at 0 range, so you can kind of get locked out of certain lands. That's one of the big weaknesses. You can spend the fire markers to increase the damage, so that's something that you can do, which is pretty cool. Voice of Command, a very powerful card, and on memory, it's busted. You can do Voice of Command plus Share Secrets, and then you can choose your any as an heir. I believe, no, your any would have to be a sun, and you can threshold this. You can spend the water marker to increase the gather on the threshold, so you can disrupt more lands. You can increase the defense with the earth markers. You can increase the damage with the fire markers. This is an example that I was trying to explained earlier with Vigor. I'll show it to you here. I bring these cards down here. So as you can see here, if I'm choosing my any to be a sun, I'm lacking that earth, needing to threshold the defense innate. And that's the one weakness with this card. Now, of course, if you do the teachings play, now, of course, you can spend markers with teachings in order to hit both, but now you're paying a lot of markers in order to threshold this. So something to keep in mind. These 2 cards work so well together because Share Secrets sets up Dahan for Voice of Command. So a very, very powerful combination of cards. And a lot of times with the Spirit, once you get to the 3 and 4 energy mark, you just want to go straight down to plays because you want to unlock the 3rd or the, well, I guess technically the in quotes 3rd and 4th play so that you can start throwing out your 0 cost supports while thresholding majors. It's pretty wild. Okay, Bloodrack Plague. This is a silly card on Intensify, and it's probably one of the best cards in the game for it. So what this card does is it's going to add 2 disease in target land, which I probably showed here. I'm going to add 2 disease in target land, and then it's going to defend 1 in target land and in all adjacent lands. Now, look at the threshold. It's 1 earth and 3 animal. So this is going to cost us, we need 4 elements to threshold this. Let me change my color so we can see. I'm colorblind, so that is difficult. Okay, so 1 and 3. So I need 4 markers to threshold it. Well, Teachings gives me one of the earth, luckily. So once again, I just need 3, so I can easily threshold with Teachings and Bloodrack. And so Bloodrack, not only is it going to be defending everything here, but it's also going to be doing damage with that threshold on the bottom. So very powerful. Now, Intensify can amplify that You spend that animal marker, you now add 3 disease. So it gets out of hand quite quickly with this card. So turn 1 would be 3 damage. Turn 2, well, the second time you play it would be 6 damage and then 9 damage, and it just grows. And it's pretty insane what Intensify does with this card. It makes a card that is generally considered pretty weak to be game winning against pretty much every adversary. And then also, if you get other disease adding cards on Intensify, you can add it to that big disease built up land. So really cool. I love that this card becomes so good on Intensify, despite the card being I think a thematic failure. I hate that Blood Rack Plague is like all built up in one land. But that's another complaint. But whatever. Let me see. I think there's one other. Oh, yes. Yeah, so the other thing is Blood Rack Plague is a card that you need to get to 4 energy for if you want to reclaim loop it. So you might have to delay going bottom track when you're trying to reclaim loop Blood Rack. Paralyzing Fright, just an amazing card in general. It's on element. It's going to be 4 fear, skip all invader actions. And then if you pair this with pretty much any of your cards, right? Share Secrets, Elemental Teachings, plus the Earth marker, or the Earth any, you threshold this card. So once again, you're going to want to get to that 4 energy to be able to repeat this as much as you can. Sleep and Never Waken, another card you can easily threshold on the Spirit. And it's actually absurd because you don't even have to play like Teachings, but you can do Sleep and Never Waken plus Study. And then you get your free Moon. So you actually threshold it just with these 2 cards. And you could choose to pay the Moon marker to remove additional or a single extra Explorer if you'd like with the threshold. This card is a game winner into Russia, France, just a lot of different adversaries. So the fact that you can easily threshold it means like if you end up playing against those adversaries and you pick that card up, you will solve the whole game for the whole team. There was a game the other day where we had a memory and they picked this card up, and the game went from being, okay, we're playing Russia 6, it's going to be a good game, to just memory just completely demolishing multiple boards. So very, very fun. Infestation, it's a skip card that also has that Air Earth. It adds beasts, gathers beasts, and you get a lot of fear. Once again, you can spend the animal marker to add extra beasts so you can amplify it easier. This is a card that we can easily threshold, once again with our good friend Elemental Teachings. So we have Teachings, which is going to be our nice Air Earth. So all we need is 2 animal. This is one of the sad cards where I wish we didn't have to take Teachings for ourselves here, but unfortunately it is, because if we just take the single any here, we're just 1 marker short, or 1 element short of thresholding it. As you can see, we're just missing that last animal. So, like, ideally, I'd love to play both of these cards, give out Teachings, but I can't, because I want to threshold this. So, one of the cards where you have to self-take it in order to get value, but still, I mean, incredible card, skips, lots of fear, you can threshold it, everything. So, great, great, great card. Looking at Trees and Stones, just a great value pick. Sun, Earth, Plant, doing damage, defending. Once again, you can amplify the damage, amplify the defense. You can use the Water Innate, or the Water marker, to push more Dahan if you threshold this card. I'm not too worried about thresholding it as much as just the top part. Bombard, one of my favorite majors from the NI expansion, and it is a great card on Intensify. So once again, it has the same issue that Infestation has, where you have that 2/2/3. It's also a 2/2/3, so you can easily threshold it with Teachings, but I really wish we could just get a single plant here and then be able to threshold it without it, but you can't. What's really cool about this card, it has both Fire and the Wilds, so we can spend the or not Fire and Wilds, I mean Badlands and Wilds. So you can spend Sun markers to add extra Badlands. You can spend Fire markers to increase the damage. You can spend Plant to add more Wilds, and it only costs 2 energy. So you can just go up to the 2 energy here and then go straight bottom track. So really, really cool thing. Unrelenting Growth. The threshold here is actually unattainable with the Spirit, and that is because, once again, you have Sun Plant, which means you have 2 and 2. So I shouldn't say unattainable, but like, because it's going to cost all 3 markers from Teachings and the any here, that's 3 plus 1, so that's 4. So we can still threshold it. Oh, this is the example I was trying to say earlier. Because it lacks the Earth, if I want to threshold this, I'm giving up the defend. So because I'm short markers and because it doesn't have the Earth, we don't get that the defend 5 if we're trying to threshold Unrelenting Growth. I have this card in S tier just because my memory builds, I like getting majors on turn 2 with the Spirit. And if you get this card on turn 2, it means on turn 3 you can easily play it. You can also amplify the wilds placement with the plant markers if you'd like. Pyro Flow, another card. This card's actually absurd on Intensify. So it's going to be, so you have your 3 energy, fire, air, earth. If you play, let's say I do teachings with it. Oh goodness, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So all we're missing is, well, actually, once again, we're missing 1 fire and 1 air, so we'll have to use teachings for ourselves to threshold this card, but we can amplify the damage, we can add extra wilds with it, and it's 3 energy fast, so you're looking at 6 to 7 damage, multiple wilds. It's just absurd. Rumbling Earthquake, a card that can just completely win games against England, Habsburg. We can easily threshold this with Elemental Teachings, tons of damage. Instruments of Their Own Rune. This card, you actually can't threshold in the early game with Intensify. So as you can see here, we're going to be 2 sun short, 1 fire, and 1 animal. Oh, wait, I think we actually can. I just misspoke. Maybe, no, I'm 3 sun short. I'm like, for some reason, I'm like, I know I've played this, yes. So we're 5 elements off, so we can't threshold this in the early game until we get to 3 or 4 plays. But the big thing with this card is because it's adding strife, I can spend a sun marker to add 2 strife, and then the top part is quite powerful. You're going to add 2 strife, and then those strifed invaders do damage to other invaders in the land. That's pretty absurd. So in the early game, I'll use it just for the top part, and then I'll let this sit in my hand until I need to threshold it in the mid-late game once I get to the 3 plays. Now, of course, if you get a little bit of energy or a little bit of elemental support, you can easily threshold this card as well. Strangling Firevine. So this is a card that I have not played on Intensify, but I've heard it's just as absurd as Bloodrack Plague. You're going to destroy all explorers. You're going to add wilds. Because of the plant marker, you can add 2 extra wilds, which means you can do more damage in that target land. And then, of course, if you threshold it with the power of our Elemental Teachings, you can do even more damage. This is a card that I don't know if I want to threshold this one as much. Yes, the damage is nice, but you're already adding extra wilds, doing extra damage in that land. So this card is adding 4 wilds, which is going to be 4 damage, as well as destroying all of the explorers. And then, if you want, like I said, you could threshold it, but I think I'd probably do something like Share Secrets with it. And then what I would do is use my any as an earth, and then I would try to use that defend, as well as throwing out 4 damage, 8 damage, stuff like that. But I heard that this card is just busted on Intensify. Oh no, I dropped my card. There it is. It went to discard. Okay, so Pent-Up Calamity. I have this card here. It's a Moon Earth. It's adding tokens, disease, and strife. We can add more tokens with the animal marker or the sun marker. And then, of course, we could use this as a damage nuke. And the threshold, I'm not too concerned about the threshold on this card, but you can hit it if you'd like. Unearth the Beast, one of my favorite cards in the game, and Intensify can easily threshold this card. And this is, I'm going to show it right here. I've showed it in one of my videos as well, but it's so silly, and it's just a lot of fun. So if we're playing these 2 cards here, we're going to be off, we're off 1 earth and 2 animal. So as you guys know, we can easily threshold it because of that. And thresholding this card means the beast is going to be a permanent +2 damage, or I guess 2 damage and a fear every turn. And we can use the fire markers to increase the damage of this part. We can also use fire markers to increase the damage of the beasts. So you can have these beasts roaming around the island doing 3 damage in their land. Pretty absurd. You can also add more not marked beasts. You can add more beasts, but the other beasts that you add will not be considered marked. So keep that in mind. It is also Moon and Earth, which is really powerful because that is like our kit. The last thing is with this card, because it costs 5 energy, a lot of times you'll see me, I usually go up to the 4 energy here. And then, well, ideally I want to get the 5 energy so I can reclaim loop it every turn. but sometimes I just ask someone for 2 energy or 3 energy, and that will set me up so I don't have to go all the way over here. But yeah, this card is so good on Intensify. It's honestly good on all of the memories, but Intensify, you can just amplify the damage of those roaming beasts. And the last card here, we have Solidify Echoes. It's a perfect element card for us. It's going to choose target spirit, defend 3 in that land, and then it allows you to add back destroyed presence. You can increase the defense in one of the lands that is defending, and you can also increase the defense of one of the lands Bloodwreck Plague is defending as well, if you'd like. You can also add more destroyed presence with the plant marker, and it's an instant threshold most of the time. I think, yeah, pretty much it's an instant threshold. You just need a single Sun Earth, which you have easily with Share Secrets. They combo really well. You can also do some weird things where you can use this card to reclaim cards and discard, and then have them played. So really cool. Okay, we made it through S tier. We're going to talk about A tier now. These cards are just a little bit more awkward. So both Flocking and Tiger's Hunting. These are just great cards where you can add beasts. You can amplify that with the markers. You can increase the damage. You can increase where you're pushing stuff. So both of these cards are great. The biggest weakness is the same weakness that Unrelenting Growth has, where it's a 1/1/2 in the elements that you need, and they lack Earth. So if you're playing these cards and thresholding them, you're not hitting your innate. And that's the only reason why they're not in S tier, is because you miss out on that defense. I really should have explained it with these cards and not Vigor, but it is what it is. I'm not going back. So Power Storm, this is another card. We can threshold it if you want, but it lacks Earth, and if you threshold it, yeah, if you threshold it, you're missing the Earth innate. So this is a card that you can make work, but it's not an amazing card. Both bargains are pretty awesome. You can threshold them if you'd like with your teachings. Bargains of Coursing Path is a perfect element card. I'm trying to think if these things do anything interesting with the spirits. I mean, they're just great cards that you can threshold. You can't use your defend markers to amplify this though, so keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, these are just incredible cards. It's just yeah, I mean, they're just good cards in general. Consuming Void, you can spend markers to gather more things, do more damage. I have this card here just because it's a silly card on memory. It's one of the cards that can win like 6/6 games if you draft it like turn 1 with the crazy like major builds. You draft it turn 1, then you choose that 9 energy button, and then you play it on turn 2, and then win the game. That's the only reason why I have it here. You might be able to argue that it's a little bit lower, but it's up here for now. Under a Curse, it has that the moon animal. You also have the moon off the free card, the free element there. So you only need a single moon and animal card, which you have with Study the Invader Sphere. And it's going to do a lot of token adds, some damage, and then the threshold is great. Once again, we can amplify the Badlands with sun markers. We can amplify the disease with animal. We can amplify the damage as well with fire. So you can do so many cool things with this card. Weave, this is a tri-element card for us. You combine 2 lands. We can threshold it if you'd like. If you do threshold it, you do have to play teachings with it, which is kind of awkward. And you remove up to 2 invaders, and you can spend a moon marker to remove a 3rd invader. And that's kind of what like makes this card work, is for 4 energy fast, you get 2 fear, and you can move 3 invaders, and then you also get your defend 5. Vanish Softly. This is a major that I tend to not like, but on Intensify, it's pretty darn good. Once again, just like with Utter a Curse, it's a very easy card to threshold. If you're playing a card like Teachings, for instance, you have your moon, you have your free moon, and then if you get your any as an heir, you threshold this. But you can spend moon markers to remove 2 invaders plus a town, so that's 3 invaders removed for 3 energy, which is pretty good value. I've choose Radiate here because this is just a great card. Like, very flexible. It's a defend 6 that you can make a defend 8. The threshold you could get if you'd like, but I mean, just the top part of the card is amazing. Walls of Rock and Thorn, very easy card to threshold with your Boon of Ancient Memes if you so desire. It adds a lot of tokens. You can amplify the damage, amplify the wilds, amplify the Badlands. Just a good card in general. Insatiable Hunger. This is a card. Once again, you can amplify the beasts, the damage. It does add blight, which kind of sucks. Also, if you want to threshold this card, you will need the elemental teachings to use those animal markers. It does add blight, which is one of the weaknesses, but in general, this is just a very powerful card, very fast tempo card. Rapid Wings, a defend 5 that you can also make a defend 7. You move up to 5 to Han. You can amplify that with the water markers. Very cheap too. Great card. Dream of the Untouched Land. I had to put it in A tier because I think you're the only spirit in the game that can threshold it on 2 plays, which I think is just ridiculous. So we have Dream. We have both of these moon here. We also have the extra moon. So we have the 3 moon. We have the 2 water. We have the 2 earth. We're missing the 3rd earth, but we can get that with the any. And then you have the 2 plant. So you can threshold these cards on two plays, which is pretty nuts. I don't know if you're actually supposed to proliferate yourself as a memory. Yes, proliferations are good, but with Dream, this is a card where whatever spirit you proliferate needs to protect that extra board. And I'm not sure Intensify has the action economy to do that, but this is like a great card to proliferate maybe like a Roots player or just another player at the board to take care of that extra land. Also, you're removing health worth of invaders. You can spend a moon. It's like if you remove a city with the 3 health, you can spend a moon to remove an additional piece, an additional city, which I think is pretty cool. Overall, though, the card is more of a meme, but it's still fun. You can play it, and the fact that you can with memory is so awesome. I have the Vengeance of the Dead exploratory version, and this is a combo card. If you're playing with any spirit that has a big damage nuke, you can use this card in conjunction with that to do tons of damage. You can easily threshold it with either Study or with Teachings. Infinite Vitality, another card you can easily threshold if you want. And then I also have Thickets Erupt here, mainly because you can easily threshold it, but it's a ton of damage. You can add a lot of wilds if you'd like, or you could do multiple blight healing. So very versatile card for 3 energy. And before I get into B tier, I just want to point out one thing here. You'll notice that most of these majors are all 2, 3, and 4 costs, and that is important to working with the memory energy economy. 2, 3, and 4 costs, you can easily enter reclaim loops with those cards if you so desire. So keep that in mind. So Sea Monsters, we finally hit a 5 energy card. I think before this we had Pyro, Unearth, so very few 5 costs, but Sea Monsters, I have this card here. It's very difficult for us to threshold. It's a card we can threshold with Elemental Teachings because we're just missing 2 water and 2 animal, and as I mentioned, you can easily get that, but because it's lacking that earth, means we don't get that defense. But I have it here because we can spend animal markers to add 2 beasts, which is going to also amplify the damage, so you can ramp this card up really quickly with Intensify. But since it does cost 5 energy, it's very difficult for us to consistently play it because like 4 energy, it's like we can reclaim loop that, but in order to reclaim loop 5 energy, we're 2 more turns away, which is going to delay down here. So I tend not to play it that much. Sweep into the Sea, another card that you can play, easily threshold it. I just find it to be a little bit more awkward than the cards up here. Same thing with Inspire the Release. It's a card that you could play. It's just more awkward. The threshold here is we're not able to hit it because we're 1 element off. Ravage Undergrowth is a very flexible card. You replace Blight with Wilds. You can spend Moon Markers to increase the Blight replaced. You can increase the damage. If you choose to threshold it, you can threshold it with Boon of Ancient Memes or Elemental Teachings. You threshold it with Boon of Ancient Memes, you will lose out on that defense. And this allows you to add more wilds. So this is what's really cool is this top part here is replacing Blight. So you need to spend moon markers for the top part, but the bottom part is adding wilds. So you can spend your plant markers to add more wilds. So really cool thing. You can spend the water markers to move an additional invader, or maybe you want to push an additional wilds. Jungle Hungers is a card you can threshold the Boon of Ancient Memories plus your any, but if you do, you're lacking that earth, so so you're going to lose that defend. So playing Elemental Teachings, you can threshold it. Yeah. Land Thrashes. I tend to hate this card, but I'm mentioning here just because it's a card that we instant threshold. We have the 3 moon here, and if this is an earth, it means if we play any of our moon earth cards, boom, it's hit. So something to keep in mind. Flow like water, reach like air. It's just a solid B tier card. We can increase the pushing of stuff with a water marker. We could threshold it if you really want to. Poison Land, another just solid B tier card. We can increase the damage. We can threshold it if we wanted to. Transform. I have this card here. I mean, it's just another solid card. You can spend moon markers to have players remove extra presence to amplify the top part, though you cannot spend a moon marker to amplify this bottom part. And I asked the devs about that. Force of Living Obsidian, a card that I normally really love, but on Intensify, it's sad. We're not able to threshold it that easily because we're 1 element off here. In addition, this is a card that's 0 range, and a lot of our effects, we're going to have sacred sites scattered on the board, so we're going to have very few targets to use this 0 range card. Blazing Renewal, this is another card. It's 5 elements, so we won't be able to threshold it. Remember, we need 2 fire, 2 earth, and 1 plant, so we can't threshold it until we reach 3 plays. So another card that's like, it's not bad, but it's like, I think there's just a lot of better cards. See, Tsunami, a card that we can threshold on 2 plays if you're playing like Boon of Ancient Memories with it. Oh, actually, no, you cannot because you're lacking the air needed. So you cannot threshold it on 2 plays. Oh, and actually, I think that actually mattered here with Ravaged Undergrowth. Oh yeah, no, I think I already mentioned that though. But yeah, I mean, you still can threshold it with Elemental Teachings, of course. It's not a bad card. It's great against Scotland, of course. But like I said, there's just better cards. I have Savage Transformation, usually a card that's terrible, but we can threshold it with either Study the Invader's Fear or Elemental Teachings. And because you're replacing Explorers, that means your moon markers can amplify this. So I think there could be a lot of value against Russia, because remember, you're getting a major on turn 2. So you can pick this up on turn 2, and that's going to replace 2 Explorers with the top and 1 with the bottom, which to me seems like, I mean, I think that's worth it for 2 energy. Very, very strong. And I don't even know if you threshold this. You might just play it for the top part, 2 energy, replace 2 Explorers with Beasts. That seems like a ton of value. Okay, so I'm going to move a lot quicker now with the rest of this list. As you guys can see, this video is getting quite long. So C tier, these are C tier cards: Bears, Smothering, Storm Swath, Wounded, Twisted Flowers, Winds. They're just, I find them to be very medium cards. Like Twisted Flowers is perfect element. You can spend moon markers to amplify it. The threshold is quite easy, which is nice if you're doing like where is it? Elemental Teachings plus this. You only need 2 plant to threshold, which I think is pretty good. But because it costs 5 energy, it could be kind of tricky. Yeah, actually, maybe there's. I'll put it over here. I'll put it in B tier because it's at least perfect element, but it's not an exciting card. You can increase the defend on Winds. You can add more tokens with Wounded Wilds. Storm Swath is just an awkward card. You could threshold Smothering. You can threshold Angry Bears. I'm not excited about them. There could be an argument actually that all of these cards are B tier, because they're not bad cards in general, but I'm just not as excited as like these cards. Like the problem with these C tier cards is if I see anything up here, it's just going to get completely outclassed. So it's just, yeah. And even cards here, I would rather take a lot of these cards over cards down here. So Fragments, just, yeah, another awkward card. I have Exaltation here just because we can easily play it. Not so much for the threshold, but we do have that 9 energy button, which is pretty cool. Volcanic, this is, or I guess Volcanic and Cast Down. These are cards that Memory is known for thresholding, like base Memory. And it's one of the only advantages of playing base Memory, I think, is the fact that you can play Cast Down, store up all of those markers with your special rule, and then eventually threshold it and win the game. But like Intensify is very close at doing that. So just to kind of showcase that here. So we are missing, if I go with Teachings here, I'm missing 1 sun, 3 water, and 2 earth. And as you guys know, I can pay for 4 of those markers. So I'm only 2 elements off from thresholding cast down. So I'm still very close to thresholding it, unlike other spirits, and I still have that energy button. So I do like in a like the ability to threshold the card does decrease, but not by much, especially in a 6-player lobby where if anybody finds Elemental Boon or Nature's Connection, then boom, you're off to the races and you can still threshold this guy. So I still have it in, I guess, C tier. Base memory, it's definitely an S tier card, but here it's just a little bit lower because you're relying on another spirit to do it or to have that card or to have those support cards. Now, Volcanic Eruption, this is a card that you actually can still threshold with Intensify. Um, maybe I should rate it higher. I just find this card to be just so dangerous. It just causes so much havoc, so much blight. But I guess it's probably just as good as base memory at playing this card, right? I think I'm exactly 4 elements off from thresholding it. So it's not a bad card. I just hate taking a ton of blight, flipping the blight card, and then making myself susceptible to edge cases and stuff like that. Irresistible Call. I mean, this is another solid card. We could threshold it, I believe. Yes, we can threshold it as it's a 1/2/1, and we have the extra air. I mean, actually, this is probably a little bit higher up. I'll put it in B tier because this is a card that just instantly solves like Russia, France. Like, there's a ton of adversaries that just instantly lose to this card if it's played early on, and we can draft it early. So, and this is what I was saying at the very beginning of the video, where like I put stuff relative, but like it's not like set in stone. Like I've already shifted 2 cards up because I think they're just a little bit better than the credit I'm giving them. Spill Bitterness, it's not a bad card. Can amplify the damage, amplify the Badlands, the Strife. It does add Blight, and the big weakness is it is that 0 range card, and we're gonna have a lot of single Sacred Sites, so there's not gonna be many targets. I guess Dissolve, probably not that terrible, because we can spend a Moon Marker to replace an additional Invader, which is pretty cool. So we can get rid of an extra city. So yeah, it's probably not that terrible, but the threshold is unhittable, right? No, actually I can hit the threshold, right? It's a 1/1/2. Oh gosh, don't. Oh god, I'm gonna put it over here. It's one of those cards like Flocking and Tigers, where if I hit it, I'm not hitting my defense, but like being able to replace 2 cities, a town for 4 energy is just so much value. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with it being up there. Okay, D tier cards. I'm just gonna go through them. Just really awkward damage based cards. All of these. Iron Flood, just also awkward. Trying to think. Unlock. We're not really gonna be able to threshold this card because we only have only have 4 markers, and I believe yes. So we're actually one. This is a card that we're 1 element off from thresholding with our elemental teachings. So kind of sad. These 2 cards we can threshold, just really bad. We don't really want to be playing them. Let's see, Plague Ships. Yeah, just none of these cards really excite me. Manifest, it's nice. It's the Moon Earth, but 0 range is awkward. You might be able to make arguments to having these cards like Talons up higher, Plague Ships up a little bit higher. At least Plague Ships could like close out the game. Like then again, any spirit can close out the game with this thing. I mean, maybe it's probably at least like C tier. My tier lists. Okay, well, the last 3 cards on the list, we got the Classic Transform and Grand Hatred. My question to you is why? Why are you playing these cards? I also put Settle down here because Settle is just terrible on Intensify. The threshold is really bad. And once again, it's effectively 0 range on the card, and we're going to have a lot of few Sacred Sites on the board. So all of our presence are going to be combined into just a few select lands. And it's not adding Badlands, it's not adding beasts. We really have no synergy with this card. Okay, so we're almost done. We're going to go over here to the minors, and for the sake of time, I'm going to move through this really quickly. Over here, these are the cards that we can't amplify with our Intensify. These cards we also can't amplify. These are very good cards. These cards are like decent to like okay. These are cards here that we can amplify with Intensify, but I would rather not do that. I didn't do a tier list per se for the minors. I just kind of put the element marker and then the cards that it can affect. Um, I put a little starry thingy with called the Dahanways because this is really absurd, and it's actually the reason why Intensify is the way that it is. So during playtesting, this used to be uncapped, but it only said you can spend a maximum of 2 markers per card. But because of Call of the Dawnways, you saw some really absurd things where you would spend 2 moon markers with this card and it would just create fields of Dahan everywhere. Um, so they then decided to make it 1 of each, specifically because of this card. But yeah, this card is still busted on Intensify. You get this card, 1 moon marker with it, and you replace 2 towns with 2 Dahan. Just absurd with a Dahan defense-based spirit. So another thing, I have all these blight healing cards. You can spend moon to replace an additional, remove or replace an additional blight. So in this case, you're removing an extra blight for an extra moon. So if you have 2 blight in a land, spend a moon marker and get rid of them both. Here are all of the earth cards. Another thing I want to point out before I dive a little bit deeper is I have them like next to a specific marker, but some of the cards are like dual. For instance, Call the Guard is a good example where I can spend water markers to gather more Dahan and also spend earth to increase the defense. So this is a card that I have next to the earth marker, but you could put it next to the water. Don't get too caught up. But I have 2 stars next to Call to Guard and Primal. Primal because it's it's perfect element, and then Call to Guard because you can gather more Dahan as well as increase the defense. Just really powerful defense. The defense up here are just better, I think, than the defense down here. But it's all relative to Intensify. Once again, I have stars. Rouse, really, really strong card if you pick it up early, because you can spend an air marker to make this card fast, and that allows you to kill your inland town. So you might be able to create a pocket really early on here by spending an air marker, killing the town. Like, let's say it's jungle here. I get Rouse turn 1. I spend the air, so now I do 2 damage fast to push the Explorer, and now look at I cut off my inland. Now, of course, this is board E, so I know it's a little different, but like being able to make Rouse fast is pretty absurd. Raids, good card. I have Veil here because it says for each Dahan present, choose a different invader, 1 damage. You can spend a single fire to have one of those Dahan do 2 damage. So now, 2 Dahan with Veil can clear out a town explorer with a single fire marker. So a really cool interaction there. God, I love Pull Beneath on the spirit. It's Moon Earth. It's 2 damage. It's very similar to Rouse, though it is a little bit more selective. Pact to the Joint Hunt, you can spend water to gather more Dahan. You can spend fire to increase the damage. So very, very strong miners. We're down over here looking at the sun markers. We can amplify the Strife, Fire in the Sky. Great card. 2 Strife for 1 energy. I have Territorial here. Very similar. You can add more Strife, add extra damage. Gold's Allure, great for adding more Strife, but also you can spend water markers to gather more buildings or more explorers. Over here I have all of the water cards that you can spend water markers to increase the push. Mainly Lure of the Unknown here is something that I have. So if you target a land, you can actually gather 2 things into that land, which is pretty cool. Same thing with Enticing. Call to Trade, you can gather extra towns with spending water markers. Just a really, really powerful card in general. Here to Be Monsters, great card because of the elements. But yeah, so these are extra pushes. I have Sky's Herald here. What is the reasoning? Oh, because you can add Destroy Presence back, and you can spend a plant marker to add 2 additional. So you're adding 3 additional presence back for 1 card. So this could get you out of a pinch or help someone out. Same thing with the wilds adding cards. Being able to spend a single plant marker to add 2 more wilds is insane. So you can do that with all of them. Or I guess these guys here. These are, what is this? Yeah, so animal markers, you can add disease and beasts here. I have Dire Metamorphosis with that star because it's perfect element, and this card is so freaking good on Intensify. Like, I have it next to the animal, but you can have it next to pretty much any of the markers. But you can amplify damage, Badlands, Beast, you name it with this thing. I love comboing this card with like a Blight Healing card, like Renewing Rain. Like if I have Renewing Rain, plus Tower Metamorphosis. I have these two guys. Let's go all the way over here to, there we go. I have these two cards down here, and as you can see, I'm getting my defend. Every turn, I'm throwing down tons of tokens, and then I'm also cleaning it up with Renewing Rain. So just absurd two-card combination here. Once again, just a lot of good disease cards. So next to the air, so these are cards that you could amplify with the stuff up here, but I have them down here because I find them most useful with the air markers. So Poison Dew, making this card fast, could be key into Russia, into France. Same thing with Drought, great into England, Habsburg as well. I've made Prowling Panther fast a couple times with Intensify, being able to destroy a town in a mountain or jungle that has beasts. A good example would be board C. Board C. Your beast land is in a jungle, so you can make this card fast, killing a town here. So pretty cool. Call to Migrate, a card that I hate a lot, but it all of a sudden becomes a lot better the moment you add an air marker on it, because now you're like setting up your Dahan for your whole board. Song of Sanctity, being able to make this fast. That's another thing with the Blight healing. Any air markers makes these remove Blight in the fast, so pretty absurd. So hopefully this video wasn't too long for you guys. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to make or showcase more videos for the channel. I know I've already gone through all of the videos for the gameplay videos, but I plan on doing another going through and doing all of the matchups again, because I've sat down, I've done a ton of extra, I put a ton of extra time into this, kind of fleshing out my opening, and I think I've refined it, where I'm pretty happy with the new opening that I've come up with. So if you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys in the next video.